Okay, hello everyone. It's 2 o'clock, so let's begin. Thank you everybody for joining us on time. This is one of Wild Apricot's monthly expert webinars, and today we're honored to have Sarah Henry with us. Sarah helps nonprofits grow using her website design knowledge and expertise. So I'm going to bring Sarah on shortly, but in the meantime, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Sonia Kosla, and I'm on the Wild Apricot content team. Beside me is my colleague Stephen, who will be on chat to help you with any technical issues you might have. During the webinar, feel free to ask any questions to us or Sarah, and to do that, you can use the chat box. Now, I want to make a couple of quick reminders before moving on. We are going to be recording this session, and we'll be sending you an email with a link to the recording within the next couple of days. So watch out for that. I also want to let you know that we are a CAE credit provider. So by attending today's webinar, you are eligible to earn 1 CAE credit. Okay, so we'll get going in just another couple of minutes, but let me briefly say that today's webinar is being brought to you by Wild Apricot. I know that many of our customers are on here with us today, so a big welcome to all of you. But I also know that we have many people here who aren't familiar with Wild Apricot, and I want to welcome you all as well. For those of you who don't know, Wild Apricot is membership management software. It's actually an all-in-one solution for anyone running a membership organization. That's because you can manage your member and contact database, run your events, build your website, process all your payments, and so on. And many of our customers consider it a lifesaver because it saves them hours a day in administrative tasks, freeing them up to focus on fulfilling their organization's mission. And we're quite thrilled with what many of our clients have been able to accomplish. We've watched them grow since we started 12 years ago, and they've watched us grow too. And thanks to our customers, we've been ranked as the #1 rated membership management software solution on the market 7 times in a row. And while we pride ourselves on helping people with great software, we're also a leading provider of free educational content, which you'll find on our blog and in webinars like today's. So also, I want to give everyone a heads up that our big annual in-person conference, PersoniFest 2020, will take place in Colorado Springs, Colorado from April 5th to the 8th. It will be a wonderful chance to network with hundreds of fellow customers, industry experts and leaders, and employees from Personify's family of companies, including Wild Apricot. You'll have access to tons of sessions on how to grow and market your organization, as well as sessions on how to get the most out of our software. If you want to learn more, Stephen's going to paste the link in the chat now, where you can head to that webpage and learn more about the conference and what it has to offer. Now, if any of you have questions about Wild Apricot, we're happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay, so now let me bring on Sarah. Sarah is the Content Marketing Growth Manager at Elevation, which is a full-service nonprofit web design agency. Sarah began in the nonprofit world in 2009 and has worked with organizations supporting education and digital and performing arts ever since. Sarah works to empower nonprofits to maintain their relevance in our increasingly tech-focused world by combining her nonprofit experience with her passion for psychology and digital media. So without further ado, Sarah, welcome. And I'm just going to hand over the presentation to you. Take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Sonia. It's so great to be here with you all today. I'm so excited that so many of you are able to join us. I'm just going to throw my screen up here real quickly. And here we go. All right, so we're going to start things off with a little introductory poll. So Sonia, if you could throw that up as well, just to kind of get an idea of where you guys are all going. So put that in and we'll get an idea in just a moment of where you guys all are. All right, so it looks like many of you, a majority, 46%, have a template-based site that you are hoping to improve. And then next biggest is a custom website, just needs a redesign and already have a great website, just here to learn more. I love that. So it's great to see that all of you guys already have a website. And for the few of you who are just starting out in your custom design website journey, this will be very beneficial to all of you guys, whether you're looking to start your first custom designed website or just looking to learn a little bit more. So let's head back to the slides here and get started. So let's just go right in. We already did a brief introduction about me, so I'll go ahead and skip that. But hi again, I'm Sarah, and as Sonia said, I am from Elevation Web. Have been working with nonprofits in the nonprofit sphere for about 10 years now, on and off. And I currently work for a company called Elevation, and we are a full-service web design agency that's dedicated to helping nonprofits tell their stories digitally. So while we have an emphasis on nonprofit website design, our solutions also include graphic design, branding, SEO, and much more. So if you'd like to learn more about us, head on over to elevationweb.org and you can check us out there. So today we are going to be talking about your nonprofit website. We'll start out by talking about designing the user experience for your user and member groups, and then jump into specific components on each page of your website, and then some design best practices. Throughout the presentation, I'll also be including examples, inspiration from some of the websites from Elevation throughout the last few years. So I hope you enjoyed those. And then if you have any questions at all, please throw them into the chat box. We are going to leave time for Q&A at the end. Unfortunately, I can't do all of your questions as they come in immediately. So let's get started. Before we continue, we're going to do one quick more poll. So if we want to throw up poll number 2, I'm really curious to know how many visitors your current website is attracting each month. So let's get up to poll number 2 and see what you guys have. So if you don't know for sure, just include a best estimate. And the reason why I'm asking this is because it's super important that your website both has an engaging design and is also designed for SEO purposes. So SEO is search engine optimization. Okay, great. So a lot of you are pulling at less than 1,000 visitors each month. So this is telling me that a new website design that is either more engaging or is more designed with SEO in mind for search engines to be able to find your site might be a great way. And we find that with all of our custom design websites that we find that our clients have new visitors each month. Their visitors grow following the release of their new website. So let's dive right into the actual content, the reason you guys are all here. So if you're going to either grow traffic or increase engagement on your site, you're going to need to design your website for your users. So before we go into how to define your user groups, let's talk about what UX is. The user experience, or UX, refers to any interaction that a user has with your website. So this can refer to how visitors navigate through your site, if they find what they're looking for, how they complete the tasks that they want to complete, and how that interaction then makes your user feel. What are they feeling in response to how they interacted? So you're going to design your user's experience. So this means that you're going to take the time to decide on the CTAs, your call to action buttons, the content pieces, the visual cues, the pages, the navigation that will guide your users through your website. Since many of you have membership-based websites, your members are going to be definitely factored into your user groups, but remember that you're going to break down your different members as well. This is just a side note for when in the future. If you have different members coming for different purposes, you're going to make sure to make a note of this. So just remember that the overall goal here is to convert your website visitors in one sitting, saving your nonprofit money and time on follow-up campaigns and long-term nurturing. So a well-designed UX is going to follow your visitors' thought processes so your website takes them down the road that they want to go down through proper visual cues and CTAs. Remember, CTA is a call to action. So basically, when your user experience is designed for your users, you'll convert those users that have a higher chance of converting. So those who are unlikely to convert or engage with your nonprofit or your site in general are then weeded out. And then another way of saying this is that the people who want to use your site know immediately that they're in the right place and can figure out exactly how to achieve their goals with ease. But your site won't cater to those who aren't going to convert no matter what, saving you valuable real estate on your site along with time and effort. So this is why it's so important to know who your audience members are so you're catering to the right people. So this is then going to take us to your user groups. In order to design your user's experience, you have to know who your users are. So this means understanding your user groups. So take a piece of paper, actually get a piece of paper, or download our user personas template, which I'll tell you and show you a little bit more about in a moment, and start writing down who these people are. Who are the people coming to and using your website? Who's interacting with your website's content? So you're going to want to choose between 3 and 5 of your most common user groups and write about them. Put it down on paper, name them, connect them, give them a photo. Really see them as people instead of just as a completable action on the site. And what I mean by this is that your user group shouldn't just be donor. They're more than just their desired action or outcome. So it shouldn't just be member. You know, what are they there to do? What is their hope to get out of your website experience? So you're going to focus on 2 main things when creating your user groups. The first of this is the demographics. This is the what. Write down a brief description of who they are, like their name, their role in either the professional or personal life, their age, their life circumstance, gender identity, size of their family, where they live, amongst many other things, whatever is most applicable to your website. But next, you're going to take it one step farther and focus on the psychographics, which is the why. Why do they want to? Why do they do what they do? This is often going to be broken down into like interests, opinions, and activities, your IOA, but it can also include your personality traits. How would they describe themselves, their values, their attitude toward life and your cause? What's their lifestyle right? What's their lifestyle right? Excuse me. And so when creating your user personas, you're going to want to ask and answer 4 basic questions. Who are they? How did they get to your website? Where did they come from? How did they find you? What do they want to learn or do on your site? And how do they want to complete that tasks? So what that can include is what information do they want to learn about before they go to the next place, and what CTAs do they want to click on? What online tools are they comfortable with and do they want to use? This could mean like, do they want to use PayPal to donate, or do they want to use Google Maps to find your community center or support group? So think about that and think about who they are. So a good format that you're going to want to follow is, as a user, I want to action so that I can goal. And I'll show you some examples of this in a moment. So a tip for this is when writing down these questions, put yourself in the mindset and use their language. This can really help later and inspire your CTAs and content headers and navigation when it comes time to actually write that. So you can always revert back to these main user groups and pull from their language and take them exactly where they want to go. So after this, you're going to remember to incorporate these few basic questions and very important questions as well. What are your organization's long-term goals? This is your mission and your vision. And how will your website tie into this? And then what are your short-term goals? What needs need to be improved immediately? Do you need to increase your donations, improve your SEO so people can find you online? Or do you need to promote your social communities? And then how are you measuring these goals and what are your KPIs? people always ask themselves the first two and then forget about the third. So make sure you're using some types of analytics software, the most common one being Google Analytics, and have that running with goals determined for a good amount of time before starting your project. That way you can make improvements so that you know what needs improving. Because if you don't know what needs improving, you don't know how people are interacting, it's very difficult to make improvements just based on a guess. So let's look at some examples of what your user action goal statements might look like. So remember that your personas are going to be very different for every organization and every industry. There's not going to be a one size fits all, but this is what I pulled two examples from different organizations so you can kind of get an idea. So for instance, if you are a healthcare organization, your user personas might sound like this. First one being, as a recently diagnosed patient, I want to learn about my treatment options so that I can make the best informed decision about my future health care plan. A user two might say, as a patient living with this chronic disease, I want to meet other people who are battling the same diagnosis so I can feel supported. Another user might say, as a family member of a sick patient, I want to learn about what your organization does to support those affected to see if I should donate. And then another might say, as a medical professional, I want to read up on the recent progress of this diagnosis. Or I want, yes, so that I can give the best quality care to my patients. And then a fifth user might say, as a scientific researcher, I want to apply for a grant so that we can get one step closer to curing this disease. So these user statements are going to look very, very different from a policy and research center, for instance. So I'm going to show you what those would sound like now. So first user would say, as a lawmaker or legislative staffer, I want to browse information about general areas of policy or find archived reports so that I can be better informed and craft legislation and compile research. The next user might say, as a member of the press, I want to find statements, press statements, releases, policy briefs, reports, or contact information for possible interviews so that I can write my story and do research. As an activist or member of the public, I want to browse information about general areas of policy or find archived reports or get simple talking points so that I can be better informed, prepare for my presentation or activism activity. So after the webinar, we created this webinar, we actually created a really thorough template for you to create your user personas, which we're really excited to give to you guys free of charge. So you can download it at this link here. I'll read it out and then hopefully I can either throw it into the chat or if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, that would work. So it's go.elevation.org/nonprofit-donor-persona-user-personas-template. I'm so sorry. So this PDF includes 5 blank templates for you to print out or fill on your computer. So you'll also find step-by-step instructions about what to write about in each section and then how to translate that information onto your website, as well as an example for you to follow. So feel free to head over there and download it. All right. We're going to throw in another poll here. I'm really curious to know who is creating your guys' nonprofit websites. Do you have someone in-house? Are you, I'm assuming many of you will be on your in-house with a templated based site based on the first answer. Are you working with an outside agency? So let me know in the poll here and we'll see. And if you are working with an outside agency, make sure you're focusing on the user experience and feel free to share the finished templates that you guys create and download with your partner. And if that's Elevation, then we'd love to see that back again. All right, let's see the results. Well, it looks like we have majority of someone in-house creating your template-based sites. And then as well as we have a few who are partnering with an outside agency, and then very few of you have your own design and development team. And I was pretty sure that that was going to be the case, as having a full in-house design and development team for your organization is pretty rare for nonprofits, since it's a pretty massive expense. All right, well, if we could switch back to, all right, great. You guys can see it there, beautiful. And let's switch on back to the presentation here. So good to know. So we are going to move on. So once you guys have your user groups determined and a basic idea of what you need out of your site, you're going to use this plus the website, your website's content that you already have, to put together the rest of your website. So we're going to go over some of the most essential components of your site, and then some of my favorite examples from some of our past clients. Will all be mixed together. So your first step is going to be creating your sitemap, user flows, and wireframes. I'll tell you a little bit about what those are. So your sitemap is a hierarchical list of all of your website's pages. What pages do you know you need to include? This will list all of the pages that you have on your website, along with how to flow from one page to the next. So quick tip, when you're making your sitemap, look for topic areas that can be consolidated or simplified. A lot of times we see some massive sitemaps that probably don't need to be so confusing. If you have a ton of content, then it will be normal to have a large sitemap. But if you have a little bit more of a simple content, feel free to simplify and don't make things too complicated. Next, you're going to organize your sitemap into your user flows. So your user flows are tailored to your specific user groups, and they're a step-by-step process of how a user will achieve their goals. Which CTAs are they clicking on, which navigation menus they'll follow, things like this. So make sure you're answering their questions, and this will loosely translate into your navigation bar once that's time to make. And then you're going to create your wireframes. And so these are essentially the blueprints of your nonprofit's website, which specific components and CTAs are going to go where, where are you going to have hero images, main images, where video is going to go, which CTAs are going to include it in what, basic things like this. So from here on out, we're going to look at how to design these layouts and what components you need to include. So we're going to go through 3 different essential pages on your website. So starting with the home page, which is the starting off point. It's the universal representation of your mission and what you stand for. And then we're going to go through some internal pages. And so these are designed for your specific user journeys and content in response to what content you have and what user journeys your user groups are hoping for. And then, as most of these for nonprofits, you'll usually have a donation page. And this is the page where visitors submit their online donations. So we're going to get started with the home page. Here we are. So when people arrive on your home page, you have about 7 seconds to make an impact. So you need to make the most of this time. Very quickly, your visual elements need to make an impression of your mission to give your visitors an idea of what you do just from first glance. And your homepage is kind of like the tasting menu of your website. From the initial banner to the following content sections, it's going to visually represent the different components on your site, and I'll speak more to that later. So the major focus of your homepage is going to be the content above the fold. So this is a concept similar to that with a newspaper, except for a website. It's the content that you see before you even begin scrolling. And according to some eye tracking research, a visitor is going to view your above the fold content about 80% of the time. So it's a massive important thing to focus on. So make sure that this content quickly represents your nonprofit's mission while incorporating your branding. So let's look at a few examples of nonprofits that quickly describe what they do just based on their initial landing page. And these are some of my favorites, so I hope you guys enjoy them. So this is Cognitive Warriors homepage. They are a nonprofit organization that connects men and women in the US military who are suffering from mental health conditions, including PTSD, depression, like that. Right off the bat, you recognize that Cognitive Warriors works to improve the lives of those in the US military. This is an example from Action Ministries. They took the idea of using a video banner. So they're an organization that addresses challenges of poverty, offering food, education, and housing for children and families in Georgia. So this video banner allows you to immediately see the work that they're doing on a regular basis. So right off the bat, there's no question about the work of Action Ministries. So then we're going to go to the next one, choice in aging. So this is an example, and you can feel the differing aesthetic from this site. As an organization that aids in elderly care, their site represents just that through powerful, high quality images and color choice, and also font choice. So one thing to note is that a really helpful component on your website is something called a preloader or loading animation. And this is an easy to load graphic that pops up on the center page while the rest of your page is loading. So this is a great way to improve your bounce rate and engage your visitors, especially if your site happens to be running a little bit slower. It takes more time to load. So it's an opportunity to give a quick introduction to your branding or the components of your website. On the left, you can see Action Ministries preloader, which is branded in their colors and says their mission in 2 words, end hunger. Right off the bat, you know what they're about. The example on the right is from Vaccinate Your Family, and they just play off of their logo to give a quick introduction and brand recognition right off the bat. This is a site from the American Indian Services. I love their website. I think they do a great job of utilizing both color and white space and powerful images to draw your eyes to the main points. So white space is an excellent way to point out what you want the viewer to focus on. And in this case, it's the CTA. So sometimes your best bet is really going to keep it simple. So most homepage banners take advantage of the opportunity to include a main CTA on your header, along with the background image. This is called the hero image or hero video, if you choose a video. And then you're going to include 1 to 2 prominent CTAs to accompany the main navigation bar to spell out all of the main options for navigating through your site. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the CTAs and that you can place on your hero image and homepage banner. So here's an example from Roots and Wings. This is a nonprofit in New Jersey. And while they have a carousel banner, their first slide here is a CTA to purchase tickets to their gala, their upcoming gala. And they probably determined that this was the most trafficked page that visitors were heading towards directly without navigating to other pages in between. So this is a great example of when you find information from your website analytics to use that information to modify your homepage content. So right off the bat, people they have a large amount of people coming to their site, they head out to purchase tickets. One side note, is be careful with carousels because they tend to hide content and rely on visitors sitting and waiting for the content to move or navigating through themselves. So we're not saying never use them, but be careful when you do. And also make sure that for accessibility purposes, you have a place to pause your banner if it's automatically moving so that you adhere to all of WCAG 2.0 AA. That's a whole topic for a whole other webinar. And we'll be getting to that in a few, hopefully in the next month or 2. So if you're interested, come back again. All right. And so this is the American Brain Tumor Association. So they have opted for 2 CTAs on their homepage that takes their 2 top visitor categories farther into their site. So this is a site with a massive amount of content. If you go through all of their headings, all their navigation, it goes on for a very long time. So they found a great way was to simplify with their CTAs of, okay, patients, here's everything you need to know. Caregivers, here's everything you need to know. And then if you go up to the main navigation bar, head over to healthcare professionals and research and stuff like that to find out other information. So go forward. So you have two options. You have options as to how you want to first engage people with your site. So eye tracking tests have found that people are really most engaged with pictures and videos. And so remember to keep it simple as well. So make good use of your color and white space to guide your visitors' eyes where you want them to go. And also set up a preloader content or loading animation. And then fourth, emphasize and create a prominent CTA. All right, so after our first impression has piqued our interest, we start to look at the rest of the components. So here's what your nonprofit will need. On the top left, you're going to need a logo, because logos are actually 89% more likely to be remembered if the logo is in the top left-hand corner in comparison to the middle or right. So I think that's a pretty massive standard that we don't want to break here. So keeping your logo in the top left-hand corner is a great thing to remember. So then you're going to head over through the navigation bar, which is decided from your sitemap and user flows, and make sure this is included on every page of your website so people can always continue navigating. The one page we say it might be okay to hide is your donation page, because we don't want people getting distracted. And maybe for those of you who have strong membership sites, if your membership site is different than your general navigation, then feel free to switch that as well. And then on the right, it's industry standard to have your donate button locked on the top right hand of your website. So a good rule of thumb is to keep it there always, because people familiar with nonprofits will recognize and expect that the donation button is in the top right hand corner. So don't make it any more difficult than it needs to be to find it when someone feels inspired to donate. And then above the navigation bar, make sure you have a good site search functionality. And this is very minor, but it's a really great example of a universally understood icon. So there's no need to redefine anything here. Keep it simple and use an icon like this or similar. And then we're going to have your social channels. Visitors will likely want to be able to find them there, and then make sure that it's easily available. It's also good practice to have those in the footer as well. And then whether your information is on, this information is in the form of a phone number or email, keep your contact information front and center and easy to find, because nonprofits especially, it's all about transparency. So make it as easy as possible for people to find you. And if your organization caters to a multilingual community, make sure that this is available on your main header as well. And the last really important feature is your accessibility feature. So this icon here indicates options, and when clicked, brings this up. So this is a plugin for WordPress from UserWay, and it's free and offers all kinds of accessible navigation like keyword navigation, accessible coloring, highlighting links, text size, so much more. And this is both incredibly necessary and incredibly important, and especially it's a massive note for nonprofits, as it's a current rule that nonprofits have to follow WCAG accessibility guidelines. So if you're interested in learning more about accessibility, please feel free to reach out with us. We've been learning a lot about it and have a lot of experience in the past. So we would love to help get you connected and get your website WCAG certified. So let's venture down below the fold. So when I had previously called this homepage the tasting menu of the rest of your website, this is more of what I was referring to, because people tend to scroll quickly, not reading every component, but scanning to see what each section offers. So when something catches their eye, they'll want to continue forward. So as you can see on American Brain Tumor Association's website, they break up their content in a similar way as to their home navigation. So the first section is about us. They next move into a short snippet called About Brain Tumors, then have resources for researchers and healthcare professionals, and they have a section on getting involved, ways to donate, and more on their impact. They also have sections on their upcoming events and their social media if they keep scrolling. So this really mirrors the navigation bar from the original homepage. So make sure that each section has three things: something engaging, i.e. a photo or a graphic, a short snippet or a taste of what's to come next, and a CTA to make them take them immediately where they want to go. And I'll also add on to that include a header as well, like about brain tumors or research, that when people skim, they know immediately kind of a visual representation of what each section is going to offer. So I'm going to go through and show a little bit more closely. This is an example from Vaccinate Your Family. So they have a very content-heavy website as they offer resources on vaccination that are all backed by scientific facts. So their website plays a key role, a key resource in achieving their mission. So as you scroll down their site, you get a visual representation of the rest of their navigation. So as you can see, when you first scroll down, which vaccinations does my family need? And that's mirrored as well. And then when you go down farther, questions about vaccinations. Continue on, you see why vaccinate and vaccine resources. And at the end, support vaccines, and followed up with their footer. So the final aspect of the homepage is your footer. So let's take another look at the American Brain Tumor Association here. And you'll notice you'll need the logo again in the top left-hand corner, a basic site map and navigation bar all laid out and available. This is helpful for when people make it to the bottom of your site with a very specific goal in mind, or they can easily Command F and search for the keyword on the page. Below this, they can remember to include your official name, address, phone number, and fax and email addresses as well. Many organizations incorporate their logos from GuideStar or Charity Watch. ABTA, they cycle through their award logos, so it's a little interactive, and they end it with a CTA to describe to their newsletter, along with many basic copyright and footnotes, just that it's always there as a lead capture option, just in case. So always find it good practice to also include your tax identification number here, since it's a very commonly searched for number, especially during tax season. All right, let's move on to your About Us page. So this is the first internal page we'll go through. Most nonprofits should have this About Us page. So this page is essential for the one thing that nonprofits need most, which is building trust. So let's look at this from the mind of a potential donor. When visitors are stumbling upon your site and your homepage piques their curiosity, they're not ready to pull out their wallets and head to your donation page. They need time to understand you, your mission, and your purpose. And their first stop is going to be the About Us page. If you're a newer nonprofit, you likely have a less complex organization with less content to include on your About Us page. So just keep it short and sweet. And as you build and gain exposure and begin making changes, have more of a history to tell, you'll have more to include. So we're going to start off with your About Us statement listed here. So your website visitors need very quick answers. So you should have a brief overview or introduction that references your mission and the point of your organization. And a quick piece of crucial advice: make sure when you're writing your content that you're writing for an audience that knows absolutely nothing about who you are. All too often we see statements written by someone else, by someone who's actively involved in the organization. And if your mission is more complicated, you have to make sure to explain it in greater detail. So write for someone who has never heard of your organization and might not even be remotely aware that people are fighting for your mission. So we always recommend that this is the statement and be prominently placed above the fold on the About Us page. While other basic components like your mission, vision, and values, they always can be bumped to a secondary page to keep your About Us statement always on the main page. If your nonprofit has a larger amount of content, a good option for navigating your About Us page is like this. So it's a series of clickable buttons that venture deeper into the different sections of your organization. So the buttons each have a small piece of content about each subpage, which allows visitors to become familiar with the different aspects of your organization and then decide which they'd like to continue reading more. So commonly segmented together is the mission, vision, and values page. So this is an example of Alzheimer's Association that lays out really nicely their mission, vision, and values. And this is the only website in here, I just want to clarify, that Elevation did not do. So I'm not trying to take credit for that. But so if your mission is they do a really great job on this site though. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like. So your mission is a cohesive statement that explains why you exist and what you do. Including this on your About Us page not only provides transparency, but also depicts the purpose of your organization to your constituents. So visitors to your site will expect to find your mission statement quickly. So feature it prominently under its own heading or in its own section, and you may even opt to include it on your homepage. Next, you include your vision statement, which is the next step from your mission statement. So this statement visually depicts the ideal state where your nonprofit has finished its work. Your vision statement should follow your mission statement, whether it's in its own section or continued in the next statement. You can specify the statement starting with "our vision is," or "we envision," etc. Then your core values are an important component for your nonprofit. These 3 to 6 selected values are passed along throughout your nonprofit to create a sense of cohesion among leadership and participants. And when writing your core values on your About Us page, make sure to include an explanation for each one and how it's meant to be acted upon. So this section is generally added following your mission and vision statement as well. And if you decide to break up your About Us page into different segments, these 3 are often all featured on the same page. And then you can follow up with your story. So one thing I really love about nonprofit organizations is that they often are born from a place of passion, which makes your story a really pivotal aspect and something that you want to share prominently on your About Us page. So our society and our minds are driven by connecting with stories. So take the opportunity to allow visitors to relate to your journey, talk about your challenges, your inspiration, the first steps, and how you've arrived where you are today. This personal touch is really relatable and finishes off the page with many theoretical statements with something that's really honest and real. And then bring your story to life with pictures and images that can relate as well. So as the story of your nonprofit is generally a little bit longer, you're going to include it at the end of your mission, vision, and core values, or in its own section. And continuing on, additional content on your About Us page can include many things. So here are some options. I'm going to run through these quickly just about time. So have a section with your leaders, either your board or your C-suite team, and have a biography and photo for each member. Including a strategic plan is great so that people can see specific milestones. It's less theoretical and more actionable. Include your financials, your use of funds, your IRS information returns, your Form 990s, and then your yearly audits if you have them. Also, you can have a newsroom area, or a career and volunteer opportunities, governance, annual reports, diversity and inclusion, past campaigns, research, policies. Honestly, the opportunities are endless, but so pick and choose based on what works best for your organization. All right, we're gonna head over to the impact page. So your impact page is a chance to dive deep into what effects your nonprofit has implemented into the world. So your ideas for this page can include an infographic, a video, statistics, stories, things like that. And you're going to want to use both stories and numbers. People react differently to different stimuli. So this is an example of from Roots and Wings, sorry, and they give a really beautifully laid out infographic that exactly displays the difference between those who do not grow up in their system and those who do. And so you can see pretty point blank that the incredible effect that their organization does right off the bat. And that's the second half of it. It's really powerful. I encourage you all to take a look. And then this is what it looks like on the homepage snippet to link to your impact page. So here's two examples. So there's so many different options for internal pages, but the one that you're really going to want to focus on next is going to be the donation page. So let's move forward. So this is your donation page. Online donation, we all know, never actually starts on the actual donation page. It begins on your home page and other related landing pages. And you'll always want to keep your donate button static in the corner of your site, like I mentioned before. So you can be, but you can also be strategic about other places where you maybe include the ask for donations. So maybe your site visitor is browsing your impact page and is inspired by all that you do, and then makes the decision to donate. Don't make it hard for them. Keep an option available. So your best UX is to keep your visitor in your website as opposed to linking out to an external one. So that means your URL. We recommend including both PayPal and credit card donate options, like this beautiful Dreamscape donate page. And so think carefully about your form fields and don't overwhelm your donor. There's nothing less appealing than a long form that feels like a job application. So keep it short and relevant, and break it up when at all possible so that it doesn't feel quite as tedious and becomes more interactive. So Dreamscape does a really incredible job of taking you through step by step, and the pop-up that comes up loads quickly and is very simple to fill out, and just by clicking donate, you're donating. Very simple, very easy. They do a great job. Next, you're always going to want to remember to include a thank you page and make sure that your email receipt is automatically generated with all of the proper information that you need to include for tax purposes. And on your site, you're always going to be working to build credibility and making sure your donor feels appreciated and safe. So a few donation page best practices: you can use imagery on your donation page to put your donor at ease. You want to assure them that the donation going to your organization is really going to make a difference. And then we also recommend getting rid of your navigation menu at this point. We want to signal to your user that a different action is to be completed on this page than all of your other pages. So you don't want them to click away by having access to that navigation bar. And then a few more best practices about your donation page. Make sure that your donation page is SSL secure. That's signified with the HTTPS in the URL. So this means that credit card information and other personal information can be transmitted safely across the web browser. And then ensure that your page is optimized for mobile devices. Mobile donation is growing rapidly and desktop donations have actually dropped. So make sure that you're taking note of that. And then start your donation content above the fold so it is easily found. And then the last little bit, I'm going to run through a few best practices to build trust. I'm going to run through it a little bit quicker for the sake of time. So here we go. The first one, every page should lead somewhere else. You should never, ever come to a dead end, whether that be in your snippets or on your homepage or on a different page. Or after you've donated, like Dreamscape here, please check out our campaigns. It takes them somewhere else. This is an example from Africa Uplifted at the end of one of their internal pages. They have continued reading for people to learn more. The second best practice is don't give all of your information at once. Give tidbits that draw people in. Connect with them and tell them and invite them to where they might want to go. So this is a beautiful example from an organization called Zima. Next, we're going to want to always mirror real world structures when designing for usability. Like scrolling left to right on a computer is very jarring and it's good to avoid it as people are used to scrolling up and down. Following the F layout, so the viewer is going to spend about 69% of your time on the left side of the screen. So this skimming tendency is only broken when they're searching for something. They will go through item by item, but otherwise this means that use this to display your information hierarchy. So your content has a hierarchical structure of most to least important. So the most important should be included on the left, while your least important you have the opportunity to include on your right. So taking a further look at this example from the Burroughs Center, not only do they ensure that the most important information is on the left side of the page, they also use the imagery of this image to guide your focus as well. Naturally, we follow the gaze of the people in the image down to the information on the community garden, so making great use of color and images to motivate engagement. Naturally, we follow the gaze of people in images, so that is a great way to lead people where you want to go. Number 5, don't bury your lead. Have a powerful message front and center. Don't make people dig through it to find what makes you you. So this is an example from the Bati School. It's an organization that works in Haiti, and they do a great job of this. Their video banner is right on their homepage. Immediately click and see Watch Our Story, and their video comes up, and you can see exactly what they do and why you should help. So if you are unsure of what is your most captivating content, you can show your content pieces to different people and watch to see what gets the biggest emotional response from them, and that should be on the front line. And lastly, know when to break conventions, but most importantly, when not to, which is going to be most of the time. Being unconventional on your website can take your visitors up to 50% longer to figure out how to navigate your site. That's a massive amount of time that you're losing just because your site is a little bit confusing. So if you're going to break conventions, do it with purpose and have a very good reason behind why you're breaking this convention. So your chance to be creative here is actually going to be in your design, like the color, your branding, your voice, your tone, the look of your website. Stand out from the crowd through your design and less in your structure. All right, so that's about all I have for you guys today. I'm so excited and so glad that I got to be here to join on with you all today. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. My email is up here. Take a screenshot of this if you're interested. My email is shenry@elevationweb.org. My LinkedIn, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Feel free to ask me any questions there as well. Sarah Henry 55. And we actually, when we developed this presentation, we realized that we wanted to do more for you guys. And so if you found this information helpful, but you're still wondering kind of where to go next, you're starting a website project, you're not sure where to go forward, our team here will actually go through your site with you in like a 30-minute quick phone call, just about where to get started and what to do. So this is the site evaluation link that we have here, so feel free to fill that out. We'd love to go through your sites for you one-on-one. I actually wish I could do this webinar just by going through your different websites and giving feedback live, but unfortunately that's not too possible right now. So we'd love to talk with you about your website and give you ideas on how you can make the biggest impact you can in your community. I will throw that into the chat as well in a moment, or feel free to take a screenshot or just head on over to that page, fill out the information. We would love to hear from you. So yes, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. So that's it for my presentation. So Sonia, how we look with questions here?
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah. So we are a little short on time, so I'm just going to run through a couple of questions real quick. One of the key questions that we got in terms of some of the technical terms is, what is a fold?
The fold?
Yes.
Yes. So the fold is it's used in a phrase of above the fold or below the fold. And so when you open your web page browser, you're only seeing a portion of the web page. So in order to to kind of differentiate, everything that loads immediately is the content that's above the fold. And after you scroll, that's the content below the fold. So if you're familiar with the fold idea from a newspaper, UX and this industry has taken that term and translated it into websites as well. So when you open your website page, your content above the fold is what you see immediately before you unfold or scroll down the website, and the content you see below is below the fold. So that's where that comes from.
Awesome. And another technical term that we just wanted to get some more information on is the CTA, which stands for call to action, correct?
Yes, so a call to action button is any button on your website that will then take you or complete an action. So whether you are submitting a form or heading to a different page or clicking to see a resource like download or something like that, those are called CTAs. And so those should be strategically planned out and placed throughout your website so that after a snippet or after a form, you take people where they want to go next through that CTA button. So those buttons are strategically placed and it can do really great things for the engagement on your website.
Awesome. And another question we had in regards to website accessibility. When some CMS tools aren't accessible for people with disabilities, how would they make that more accessible on their website?
So if the CMS in of itself is not accessible, is that what?
Yeah, like they're just saying that a lot of the CMS technology out there actually doesn't have some website accessibility capabilities. So like how would they build that into their website to make it accessible?
Right. So this is a huge thing that's definitely becoming a lot more talked about nowadays, and very important. And if you're finding that your current CMS has no capabilities whatsoever, it's probably time to change CMS. That's one option. Another option, if you want to keep on that CMS, I would suggest having a website accessibility audit done, where different organizations offer comprehensive audits of your website and give you distinct actionable things to change to adjust the on your website, whether that be changing the color of something to changing the actual HTML coding to make it easier for someone. And so there are some really great options out there. If you want to learn, I can give you a few recommendations if you contact me. Along with that, a lot of CMSs, depending, I can't give one answer for every CMS, but check to see if the current CMS you use has different widgets that account for making your website more accessible. We use UserWay as our general widget we include because it's an incredible widget for WordPress sites. So if you're currently using WordPress as your CMS, that's a really great option to use. So that's about all as specific as I can get, but so hopefully that helps.
Great. So actually, that's all the time we're going to have today to cover questions. But like Sarah mentioned, please feel free to reach out to her through her email or through LinkedIn, or as well get in touch with us. And we can also answer your questions and forward them off to Sarah as well. We're just coming close to the top of the hour here, and I want to make sure that we respect everyone's time. So I just want to say thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your advice and experience today. That was very helpful for everyone attending the webinar. And now we know how important it is to have a good online experience with your website's homepage in order to help grow your organization. So thank you so much once again, Sarah.
Thank you so
And now, as mentioned, yeah, we're going to be sharing the recording with everyone in a follow-up email within the next day or two. So just be on the lookout for that. And now that we're coming to the end of the webinar, I want to quickly mention that if you're new to WildApricot or you have questions for us, I'll cover some free resources and offers in just a moment. Okay, and so like mentioned, if you are new to Wild Apricot, I want to let you know that you can find more educational content on our Academy page. Stephen's going to paste the link into the chat for that. And this is where you can find more webinars, including the recording of all of our past webinars. And I highly recommend you take a look at these resources and content on the blog and articles because there's lots of helpful content there about growing your membership, running successful events, recruiting volunteers, and so on. And all of that content is free. And lastly, if you're running a membership organization, whether that's a nonprofit, association, or club, or any type of organization, you're welcome to try our software at no cost for 30 days. So feel free to take advantage of that opportunity, especially if you're looking for ways to automate a lot of your tasks that consume your life. So Stephen's going to paste the link in the chat window now, and you can just click on the link you see there, and you'll be taken to our website where you can enter your email, name, and organization name, and you're ready to go with your free trial. Also, if you'd like to receive a call from one of our coaches, just email coaches@wildapricot.com and one of our coaches will get in touch with you to schedule a call. Stephen's going to paste the link in the chat now as well. And once again, just another quick reminder that if you joined us late to check out our big annual in-person conference, PersonaFest 2020 in Colorado Springs, Colorado from April 5th to the 8th, Stephen's going to paste the link in the chat to check out our website where you can find out more. And again, if you have any questions about Wild Apricot, stick around for a few minutes. I'm going to pass the mic over to Stephen, who's going to answer any questions you have, because we always get a lot of questions about our software whenever we do a webinar. So if you have any questions about Wild Apricot, please type it into the chat window now, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Stephen.
All right, thank you, Sonia. And again, I hope you found today's webinar content helpful. Yeah, so I'm going to tackle some of the questions that came in regarding the webinar or the Wild Apricot software specifically. A lot of you guys are asking about how the content relates to what you've seen today and how Wild Apricot can help. So one of the things I'll mention, a lot of people are asking about accessibility and Wild Apricot. So the plugin that was mentioned today is something specific to WordPress. So we do have an integration with WordPress. I've seen some people who just, maybe the Wild Apricot website editor isn't quite where they need it right now. Like it's not fully accessible, for instance. And for some organizations, that's an absolute requirement. So if that's something that you're looking for, you can consider jumping into WordPress and building your site there and using the plugins mentioned to just kind of make sure the site's fully accessible. Take advantage of the free consultation and work through it that way. And Wild Apricot can then integrate into your existing WordPress website using some of our embeddable widgets. And that lets you bring things over like the membership application form, member profiles, really all the main member-facing content. So you're not going to miss out on Wild Apricot's functionality, and anything that your members interact with, like the application form, just post back to your Wild Apricot database. So you can still take full advantage of all of that. We also do have partners. If you wanted to get in touch with one of them and maybe have them take a look through and see if they can do some custom coding on the Wild Apricot side of things and maybe build out the accessibility functions that you need there, definitely something worth checking into. I'm going to place the link right here. So it's wildapricot.com/partners. That's our partner directory. A lot of those guys are super, super knowledgeable about the system itself, like Wild Apricot and custom coding. Definitely worth taking a look into. And yeah, so as you have any additional questions, feel free to just keep pasting them here, and I'll just take them as they come in. So. Oh yes, another thing that people were asking about is whether or not Wild Apricot CMS is going to be developing to be more accessible. And what I can say, I don't have the definitive answer to that, but we are working on some overhauls to our CMS, and we're working on expanding it and making it more of an independent function. So I would say stay tuned. My hope is that we can expand it in ways to be much more competitive with WordPress and really give you the functionality that you need there. Okay, so one question here, will there be any additional charges for changing a template or for getting help with a new setup? So if you're already paying for a Wild Apricot account, or maybe you're just coming in for a free trial, our support is free. So if you just want to know more about what themes are available, or if you have questions about how to do certain things, you are more than welcome to call into our support line and just get some assistance that way. Like maybe you want to figure out how to put a donation button right there on your page template, and that helps to ensure that members always have an opportunity to donate, as was mentioned in today's webinar. That's super easy to do, and our support team would be happy to walk you through that. Another question actually related to that is, can we request a copy of our current website to make changes? Yes, absolutely. We offer website cloning as a free service. So again, if you just get in touch with our support team, in fact, let me put the email address there. Reach out to our support team at support@wildapricot.com and just ask them to create a free clone. I'll just free clone of my site. They'll set you up with that. It'll be created as a new 30-day trial account with all the site pages copied over. And what you can do there is you can test out different themes and see what you like, and just kind of anticipate how much work would be involved in making that kind of switch. It's a pretty powerful little tool for you to take advantage of. And again, it's all free. It's part of our free support. So additional, I'm just scanning through the questions here. I have a website using WildApricot templates. I want to update the site, but don't want it live. How do I do that? So this can be a little bit tricky because we don't exactly have an offline editing mode. The clone site is a good first step, all right, because that lets you go ahead and test the theme change and know exactly what's going to go wrong, if anything, hopefully very little, when the theme change is made. And then from there, with that knowledge, in your pocket, you can go back to the live site, maybe throw up a public under construction page temporarily on the site, make that theme switch, and again, knowing what you know already about what could possibly go wrong, just quickly make your changes and then post the site back online again and remove that under construction page. It's one potential workflow. Again, though, I'd encourage you to get in touch with our support team and just chat with them and see if there's a good strategy for you. Maybe you have off hours where it's going to be more, I guess, clean to take the site offline or do something like that temporarily. So I'd say definitely get in touch with our support team for assistance with that. All right, so can you outline the different generations of site templates? We first started in 2008, and I think our site templates from that era. Yeah, if you started in 2008, you're probably using one of our older non-responsive templates. All of our current website themes are totally mobile friendly, and we've actually deprecated a few that weren't in the past. So I think you'll find if you're using one of our older pages, you might notice the page isn't scaling properly on mobile devices. Maybe your entire website's tucked in the top right corner or top left corner of your screen. You want to avoid that, obviously. So feel free to take a look under website themes in your admin backend just to check out the different themes that are available. And again, just get in touch with our support team for that clone site. It's well worth looking into making your site mobile friendly at the very least. It's a big step for accessibility overall. Let's see here. So, and again, when you switch themes, your site content will transfer over. So the system will do its best to preserve everything that you have already, and you should notice minimal loss, if anything. Like it's going to take your content gadgets, your membership forms, your fields. It'll all still be there. All right, so if you're looking for some more content that just kind of walks you through WildApricot's functionality, especially if you're a newer user to the system. This applies to new admins and new trial users and maybe people who don't even have an account yet. We have our WildApricot Bootcamp series, and it is a series of 5 video tutorials that will walk you through all of the system's areas of functionality, and that includes some additional just tips and tricks at the very end. It's the #1 resource that we like to recommend to people, and again, it's free. If you just email us at coaches@wildapricot.com and just say, please send me the WildApricot Bootcamp, we'll send you the link to that, and it's just 5 YouTube videos, but it should help you get on your feet and really get things underway. And if you do have questions about implementing anything that you saw today in the video, like a donation button or a donation form, that's very easy to do in WildApricot, and our support team would be happy to walk you through it. You can even do recurring donations now with WildApricot payments, so that's a pretty big plus for getting that money coming in on a regular schedule. It's definitely another thing that's just worth looking into and enabling for your site. So yeah, so again, feel free to email us if you want the bootcamp, coaches@wildapricot.com, and we'll make sure you get that link. And then you feel free to take a look through it and ask us if you have any questions. All right, so thank you so much for sticking around here, everybody. You probably have a long day ahead of you, so I'm gonna hop off now. I hope you found the content useful. And again, I just wanna reiterate, you will receive a recording shortly after this webinar is aired. We just have to process it and send it out. So within the next day or so, keep an eye on your inboxes and it'll be there. All right, have a great rest of the day.